You already know what to do, but you're not doing it. That gap, the space between knowing and moving, is not a motivation problem. It is not a discipline problem. It is something more specific. And once you see it clearly, it loses most of its power. Here is what is actually happening. You reach the moment of action. Something in you says, "I don't feel like it," and the conversation stops. Not because you decided to stop, but because that sentence arrived with the weight of a verdict. It sounded final. Therefore, you treated it as final, and the moment passed. You have tried pushing through it, but the resistance makes the task feel worse, not better. You have tried waiting until you felt ready, but readiness rarely came on its own, so you stayed in the middle, wanting to act, unable to start, quietly frustrated with yourself. And here is why. The first layer, you think the problem is motivation. You believe you need to feel a certain way before the body will move. But that belief has the sequence completely backwards. The second layer, the real pattern, is this. You have been treating your emotional state as the decision maker. Not deliberately, not weakly. It happened through repetition. Every time "I don't feel like it" ended the conversation, your brain logged it as authority. Therefore, the feeling grew. It was never just a feeling. It became a rule you didn't remember writing. The third layer goes deeper still. The feeling is not about the task. It is about the starting. It is about that specific moment before the first move, where the gap between where you are and where you need to be feels widest. That gap is not real. It only exists in anticipation. But your brain responds to it as though it were a wall. Therefore, every day you face that wall, feel its weight, and quietly step back from it. Not because you are someone who quits, but because you were taught to listen to the wrong signal at the wrong moment. The signal was never the stop sign. It was just weather. That is a meaningful difference. If this pattern continues, your goals do not disappear dramatically. They dissolve quietly. You wake up in 6 months with the same intentions you had today. Not because you failed, but because you kept waiting for a feeling that was never going to arrive before the action. Therefore, the action never came, and the version of you that was supposed to exist inside those 6 months never had a chance. Here is the shift. You stop arguing with the feeling. You stop trying to override it, silence it, or replace it with something better. Instead, you complete the sentence. "I don't feel like it" is the first half. It is a true and neutral observation about your current emotional state. It describes nothing about your capability. It predicts nothing about your next move. But on its own, it has been functioning as a conclusion. So you add the second half, out loud, plainly, without drama. "I don't feel like it, and I'm going to do it anyway." You say it for the gym. You say it for the work. You say it for the small things that compound quietly into everything. Something precise happens when you do this. The first half stops sounding like a reason. It becomes what it always was, a fact about your internal weather. The second half is the decision, and the decision belongs to you, not to the feeling. Most days, the resistance is gone within minutes of starting. Not because you convinced yourself to want it, but because wanting it was never the requirement. Moving was. This is not about forcing yourself. Forcing implies a battle. There is no battle here. There is only a sentence, spoken clearly, finished completely. You acknowledge what is true. Therefore, you act from something steadier than mood. You do not wait to feel ready. You do not negotiate with the part of you that hesitates. You finish the sentence, and you move. The feeling was never the final word. You just never gave it a second half.